I've ever seen you do this without
Hello.
a short sleeve shirt on. Hello.
Look at the short sleeves. Hello, everybody. I am joined by the always amazing Eleanor Goldfield. Please say hello to her. And we have a great show for you. Eleanor's going to lead the charge here.
Driving the bus.
We're trying a new gimmick where Lee doesn't know what the fuck's happening. So let's do it.
He's just been sitting outside in the sun drinking all day.
No, I do know we have a lot of great stories. Even more, we're getting even more news on how many American sites have been hit by Iran. China has made an epic move that honestly could have global ramifications. We'll get into that. 70% of farmers can't afford fertilizer and so much more. Let's do it. Click thumbs up, click share, click all the good things that need to be clicked, and let's go.
All right. Well, I'm driving, but you have the map, so you tell me where to start.
Oh, gotcha. Iran from Truth Out. Iran has damaged or destroyed hundreds of targets at U.S. bases. Now, I brought you a couple days ago that they had hit 16 U.S. bases. Even CNN was covering that, but this is far more detailed.
Yeah, so basically, there's been a very concerted effort to cover up the damage. There's also a concerted effort to cover up how many American military members have died. And so a new analysis has come out. This is from May 6th, and we're recording this on May 8th in case you're listening after the fact. And overall, as of May 6th, across 15 U.S. bases in the region. Why do we have so many bases in the region?
Well, because Iran put their fucking oil in between all our bases.
217 structures and 11 pieces of equipment were struck. So basically, at least 228 assets have been struck by Iran since the beginning of the war, including hangars, barracks, fuel depots, aircraft, and key radar communications and air defense equipment. I think it's worth noting, I was recently listening to an interview with Matthew Ho, he used to be a State Department official. He was in the Marines, did several tours in Iraq. And he was doing an interview where he said, this is a battle of the 21st century versus the 20th century. And, the U.S. has spent millions of dollars on its warcraft and its military equipment. And you've got Iran destroying billion-dollar radar systems with drones that cost $5,000.
Yeah, the money differential is crazy. Like Iran spends 1% of what we do on military.
And yet they're holding their own in a way that the U.S. empire was not prepared for. And there's a lot of different analyses flying around out there about who's winning and and I don't really like looking at it in this kind of, it's not a track race. Okay. It's war. And ultimately nobody wins except perhaps the people making bank off of this ridiculous military equipment. But I think it's important to note that yes, the U.S. military is the largest that the world's ever seen. It is also significantly outdated in terms of how it perceives the rest of the world and indeed how it operates. When I spoke to Matt Ho, another thing that he pointed out was that, these aircraft carriers, they are not up to a standard that can keep them out, this long. They're falling apart. Some of this is because they're older. Some of this is just because our manufacturing is not at all what it used to be. So all of these components combined mean that the U.S. military is really not able to put up the fight that it thinks it can, and that all of the Trump people are saying it is.
These are great points, and so much of this has to do with maritime blockading, which the U.S. is now trying to act like is its big power. Which, as you're saying, is kind of an antiquated way of fighting. It also just kind of undoes, or if the U.S. were to exceed, it undoes global trade in like a big way. So much of global trade relies on the fact that countries, no matter how much they may dislike each other, are not going out in international waters and just shooting or stealing or whatever other countries' ships. Like, global trade relies on that. And yet the U.S. has said, oh, no, we're going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, that area. But you've got to keep in mind, the U.S. is trying to blockade 400 miles away from it because the U.S. knows if they get within 400 or 500 miles, then Iran can easily, just from the firepower they have on shore, can easily take out these ships. And so the U.S. is way out in international waters, just saying, yeah, we're just pirates. I mean, Trump actually used the term pirates to stay. Sometimes I know I'm walking into something that Eleanor's going to jump on, but just behaving like pillagers out in the middle of international waters. And a lot of what people believe the U.S. is doing in terms of the petrodollar, in terms of controlling energy and the energy in and outflow of China, relies on the U.S. ability to just blockade massive swaths of the global oceans, which the U.S. doesn't have the ability to do.
Do you want to, now that you mentioned...
Now go over your pirates rant. Yes.
No. No, now that you mentioned China.
Oh, I got to hear the pirates rant first. Pirates were much cooler than...
Yeah, they were way cool. So like when you compare Trump to a pirate, that is like comparing...
he did
it. But he was comparing... You get what I'm saying? Like, it's not that. Like, pirates were brutal and they could be horrific, and yes, they killed people, and yes, they stole shit. And also there's evidence from the what do you call it in English, the Mediterranean to the Caribbean to off the coast of Africa and off the coast of China, that pirates operated in a much more egalitarian way. A lot of times they would attack slave ships in order to free the slaves. They built these enclaves where, the captain was what we call a situational hierarchy, would give commands during fights and during attacks. But other than that, everything, all the treasure and everything was, the things that were stolen were split evenly. If the captain tried to like pull some hierarchical bullshit after the fact, they could just kill him or like leave him stranded.
So let me sum it up. Pirates were cool. Trump is not.
Yes. So, and again, like, this is not all pirates, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think we all want things to be a monolith, but like the idea that pirates were just these evil wrongdoers, and it's good that the British Empire and the French Empire and all these people did away with them. Fuck that. No, that's incorrect. And also, the golden age of piracy, just contained in the Caribbean, is also just like some bullshit, because there have been pirates all over the world. In fact, the most successful pirate of all time was a Chinese woman, Shang Shi, and she brought the Chinese Empire to its knees. So okay.
All right. Let's go to the next story.
You shouldn't have fucking asked, dude.
Well, I didn't say tell us everything about pirates.
That is not everything. That is not at all everything. I didn't even get into the Barbarossa brothers, which, by the way, is a great name for a pizza place. All
right. Go to the story.
So this actually has an update as of like 10 minutes ago. According to 10 minutes ago released by Dropsite News, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait have now lifted restrictions on the U.S. military that they initially put in place because they were not at all informed about this so-called, project, what do they call it again?
Freedom or something.
Operation Freedom.
Operation Freedom.
What?
They're so creative.
And that can't be the only one. We have to have used that before, right?
I thought it was the whole operation of the United States.
Anyway, they had pulled basically U.S. military access to their airspace and things like that because the U.S. is just railroading them. And they are getting nothing for aligning themselves with the U.S. But in typical sycophantic play, they are now backpedaling and now allowing the U.S. military to access their airspace and their land. But
it shows how happy the Saudis and Kuwaits are with what the U.S. has been doing in general. And the Saudis hate Iran, but they don't like the way the U.S. is behaving. I don't think they think it's going to end well. What's happening right now.
And I think if they're continued to. If the U.S. continues to push them, which the U.S. would always do, I think you could definitely see at least a partial reversal on their willingness to be the doormats of U.S. empire. But Perhaps I expect too much of that.
So speaking of China, this is a major story that's getting very little coverage. As I've kind of covered with the petrodollar and the aim of the US to both cut off energy to China, but also to force countries that could be selling oil outside and natural gas outside of the dollar to back into that system, so that most of it is being sold and bought in US dollars, which gives power to the US dollar, etc. A key part of that is the sanctions regime. US uses economic war and has done that for decades. Trump's not new to it. He maybe has ramped it up a lot, but economic war is one of the biggest tools the US has to crush other countries. And they're, right now, most of there's technically a blockade of Cuba, right? The Trump administration is threatening ships that go to Cuba. But the biggest tool in that is saying to other countries, we will sanction you and we will cut off US trade if you bring fuel to Cuba, so that the US is not like actually firing on a lot of ships. Yes, they have literally taken a few oil tankers, but most of it is the threat of, we are sanctioning anything coming to Cuba, and if you try and trade to Cuba, we will sanction you, etc. Well, China has finally, to some degree, put its foot down in a way that they never had before. China has ordered firms to ignore U.S. sanctions on Iranian oil. And this is a major step. It's also a major signal to other countries that maybe U.S. sanctions don't matter anymore, or don't matter as much as they used to. China has ordered companies to disregard U.S. sanctions targeting Iranian oil purchases. A directive, the people have learned this from a directive issued through China's Commerce Ministry. The directive applies to several Chinese refiners accused by Washington of buying Iranian crude, including independent teapot refineries. The report described the move as a more...
has nothing to do with teapots, by the way.
The report described the move as a more explicit form of resistance to U.S. pressure on Iran's oil exports. And this undermines a lot of what the U.S. plan was to cut off energy to China. Now, China has massive energy reserves. They also have put in a crazy amount of green energy in order to not be as reliant on fossil fuels. So, go ahead.
I just have a question. How can you just ignore sanctions, and if you can just do that, why doesn't...
Well, the reason, as I said earlier, the reason most countries abide by them is the fear that the U.S. will come at them with other sanctions. Like we'll say, okay, we're cutting off, let's say, U.S. trade with whatever third country is, if you do business with Iran. Now, that works for certain countries. It doesn't work for China, because China is economically bigger than the U.S. China...
Well, also, if you cut off trade with China, the U.S. economy would collapse in 3 days.
Yeah. So, whereas the U.S. Economy is only 14% of Chinese, I think, exports. So it's far more important that the U.S. keep trade with China than China keep trade with the U.S. Anyway, this is a major step in China basically standing up and saying, no, you can't just cut off all energy to China. Yeah.
So apparently, I guess this is a response because the U.S. sanctioned Chinese oil refineries for importing Iranian oil 5 days ago. So apparently this is China's response.
And then China said, ignore it.
Yeah. F you.
Yeah. And this is all coming. This is all coming just before Trump's trip to China, which I'm sure is going to go great.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's going to China. It's the first U.S. president to go to China in 7 years. The last one was Trump, I believe.
Do you think he's actually going to go?
I don't know. He keeps pushing it back. So it was supposed to be a week after the U.S. attacked Iran and killed Khomeini. And I think I said this on a previous live stream. I think Trump thought that he was going to go to China with all this power. Like, I've taken down Iran, one of your main energy sources. I've taken down Venezuela, one of your other main energy sources. And so basically you're going to give me whatever deal I want, because look at all this power I have. And instead, Iran has fucking thrown it in his face And he pushed back the trip. He pushed it back like by 2 months. And now we'll see if he keeps the date, we'll say. Anyway.
Wow.
And here's an article that
Fortune magazine.
From Fortune magazine that I can't read without subscribing. But China's unprecedented defiance of U.S. sanctions triggers showdown.
Yeah, like it's China's fault.
Showdown. Yeah, no, they totally. All these outlets are making it look like it's China's fault.
Just out of nowhere.
Why would they do that to us? So mean.
Rude.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to, and this is related, the 70% of farmers. It's all connected to our insanity with Iran and our pathetic waning U.S. empire.
I don't like to sound like a paranoid Polly here.
I believe it's an alarmist owl.
Okay. Might be a good time to stockpile some fucking food or start growing it yourself, because 70% of farmers in the United States cannot afford all of the necessary fertilizer. So because of the dumb fuckery of capitalism, our farmers in the US import fertilizer. And a lot of that fertilizer is tied to, you guessed it, Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. So basically what this means is that the price of fertilizer this year has gone up 13%. Now, this comes after, in 2025, there was a 46% increase in the number of farm bankruptcies. 46%. That is massive. We are losing the people that grow food in this country, y'all. And if you look at the demographics, the majority, by a pretty wide margin, of farmers are over the age of 50. So not only are we losing farmers to bankruptcies and things like that, but we're losing farmers to the just time and mortality.
Because you have to be kind of insane to go into farming these days.
Because it's impossible.
Because it's really difficult, or you have to work for some massive corporation where they just exploit you at every turn.
There are people like Bill Gates who own like what amount of farmland in this country?
Delaware.
Which doesn't sound like a lot when you consider Delaware's as a state, but like if you actually think about
one guy.
Yeah, and if you think about like that okay. So these are compounding issues, right? The fertilizer issue on its own would be awful, but when you combine that with the fact that farmers have already been struggling because of bankruptcies, which were very much tied to the tariffs, right? And of course, that trade with China. So again, everything is interconnected here. We are not only going to be experiencing much higher prices in stores, which you probably have already noticed. Like, you can't even go into a store anymore without dropping $100 on what seems like a yogurt. And now
it's $35 to pass by giant grocery stores.
Exactly. That's a chain. He doesn't mean like large ones, but I guess that too.
People know giant grocery stores.
Dude, if you're in like LA and you say Harris Teeter, or like or if you're in the South and you say Ralph's, like, people know what the fuck you're talking about.
They assume you're vomiting. I went by Ralph's. Oh, I'm sorry. What'd you eat?
I have to say, one of my favorite spots in LA is Rock and Roll Ralph's, and you go in there at 3 a.m. There's some guy headbanging while looking at milk. Anyway,
dude, I've had the Rock and Roll Ralph's before. It was not good.
The people watching at that place is remarkable. Anyway. We're not only going to be experiencing much higher food prices, but food shortages, right? Because obviously, for those who don't know, fertilizer, you need that in order to grow the thing in the fucking first place, right? So, again, not to sound like an alarmist Abigail or whatever the hell you said, but
that's acceptable.
Okay, thank you. But this is a big deal, and we're not ready for it. We're not ready for it economically. If you think about the fact that last year, the average U.S. household spent an extra $1,000 just covering Trump's bullshit tariffs, which are now the payback for those to the
Yeah.
corporations is also coming out of our pockets.
Yeah.
So we're paying for that twice.
I know.
Now we're going to have to pay
I
more
haven't really
for the
covered.
Iran war
I-
food issue, plus the Iran war itself.
I
Like,
haven't really covered the fact that that Trump got this money from the tariffs, which many of us had pointed out. In the New York Federal Reserve, actually, a study showed that like 90% of those costs were being passed on to consumers. So we were paying the billions of
The
dollars that Trump collected with tariffs. That billions of dollars is now getting paid back, according to the Supreme Court, to the companies, not to us.
no, you have to be a company, because there's basically like you can apply
Yeah.
for reimbursement, but like you can't. You have to be one of the companies. And so, and that is then going to be pulled out of taxpayer money. So the compounding amount of bullshit that we have to pay for because Trump's a fucking idiot is like remarkable. And there's no real end in sight here, and it's just going to get worse. In fact, people's experts say that the price of fertilizer is going to be at least 13% higher than it was last year into 2028. So again, like, just like I know that Lee's covered this before, the oil, like the gas prices, that shit, it's not like you wake up tomorrow morning and, you know, the day after the Iran war starts and there's this immediate effect. It is a long-term effect, and it can get worse over time. So 2028, if we're all not like living through a nuclear winter, you'll still see fertilizer prices higher because of what's happening right now.
And speaking of everyone being hungry, the Trump administration does not care.
Yeah, well, there's a shocker. So last weekend, sometimes I know these people are monsters, but it's just, I still find it remarkable when they cheer themselves on for being monsters, you know?
Yeah.
So this piece of shit, who's the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, posted online celebrating the fact that she has kicked 4.3 million people off of SNAP and counting.
SNAP, of course, is the food assistance
stamps
program.
Where
is here we go. Under President Trump, Americans are getting back to work, she said. Healthy employment numbers means less reliance on government programs, leaving benefits for those who truly need them. America is back in business. 4.3 million off SNAP and counting, she says.
I think it's also worth noting,
which is, by the way, a huge percentage of those millions is children. So
Yes.
She thinks the children are going back to work, I guess.
Also, I'm trying to find overall employment fell in 2025, just FYI. In case you didn't know that just by looking around your community and this country, actual statistics show that employment fell. So
and 2 weeks ago,
America is not going back to work, actually. And also, you piece of shit, monster, asshole, total lack of humanity. Somebody should not have to labor for your war machine in order to eat.
This Common Dreams article says, in reality, the unemployment rate is currently higher than when President Trump took office, and there has been almost no growth in net employment since the president announced his Liberation Day tariffs just over a year ago. And last week or the week before, I played a clip of the chairman of the Federal Reserve saying, when you calculate for other, externalities or issues or whatever that's not normally calculated in employment, he said, we've seen essentially zero employment growth.
Yeah. So these are just lies. These are absolute lies. And at the same time, while they're lying, people are going hungry. A lot of kids, their only meal that they get is in school. And I remember covering this years ago. The worst grade meat in the US goes to prisons and schools.
Well, you always like to get some weird rubbery bits in there for the kids.
It's more fun. Chicken nuggets are extra bouncy.
And this goes with what I've said a lot about this war with Iran, but also just these wars in general that the U.S. is involved in, that there's also a war against the American people that is like not really being talked about. These ruling elite are as much at war with you and me as they are with Iran or Cuba or Venezuela. It just doesn't, it's just not as obvious. It's just not bombs raining down, but it is, people are dying, people are starving, people are having their lives destroyed. And, another example of it was the clip of Trump saying, we don't have money for daycare. We don't have money for things like Medicaid and Medicare. He's like, that's on you. We only have money for war. And, he legit just said that. And the reason they don't have money for that stuff is because you don't matter. They are at war with you and me.
To quote, I don't remember her name. She's a philosopher, but she said the U.S. is not at war. The U.S. is war. And I think that's
an oil company with a military.
George Carlin said that one.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move over to Gaza, which luckily Israel completely unrelated from the war with Iran. There's no connection between the two.
So this is a report that came out earlier this week. Middle East Eye reported.
That was a joke, by the way, for those who thought it wasn't. Israel, obviously, very connected to the war with Iran.
I don't think anybody watching this is that dumb.
I got no laughs from the in-studio audience, so I needed to
I didn't know I was the fucking audience.
You're the audience.
Oh, get out of here.
Thank you, Carl, for supporting the show. Carl says, love you both. World War I was really to stop the Berlin-Baghdad Railway. World War II was really to stop Germany from taking control of the Suez Canal. Is World War III really about stopping BRICS and the international north-south transport corridor? That is definitely a big factor of it. That and defending the petrodollar.
Okay, so Middle East Eye reported on this. A lot of other outlets have reported on it as well. But according to the civil defense in Gaza, approximately 8,000 Palestinians killed during Israel's genocidal war on Gaza remain under the rubble. And this is even after carrying out extensive recovery operations. Another 3,000 people are still missing. It's unknown whether they are alive, martyrs, or prisoners. And I always say this when I talk about Gaza, but this is an undercount. These are people that are, when they count the dead, they count people that they can identify or that they have a body, and they'd only count people that are, have been directly bombed or something, somebody who dies because they weren't able to get necessary medicine. That is not considered, even though that is, of course, directly caused by Israel. And the genocide is not just bombs and bullets. It is, of course, the lack of appropriate food and medicine and shelter. So I think it's important to always mention that these are undercounts. So 8,000 bodies is an undercount, but thousands of bodies are stuck under the rubble because, of course, one of the things that Israel is also blocking from entering Gaza is construction equipment that could clear the rubble and actually allow for some kind of rebuilding effort. That along with, again, the medicine and the food. So, and this, of course, also is, it's also an undercount because some of the weapons that Israel has used have literally disappeared bodies.
Yeah.
Like these thermobaric weapons that basically, according to several researchers, including at the UN, have evaporated bodies. You walk into a place after the fact and there might be some blood spatter on a wall, but there's no body. Like it literally evaporates.
And one estimate, which has been used by the UN rapporteur Francesca Albanese, says 680,000 have been murdered in Gaza. If you count non-direct deaths, which is death from starvation, disease, right, which Israel uses as weapons as well. So 680,000. Even if that were off by a major factor, and it's only 500,000, 500,000. That's still a crazy difference between that and the actual number of bodies from bombs that they have listed. I did a Substack column recently on a combination of that and the fact that Israel seems to be planning to go to full-on war against Gaza again. They seem to be moving in that direction. Also, they violated the ceasefire almost every single day. There's been a quote-unquote ceasefire since October, so it's not really a ceasefire. And and the fact that Israel has now taken 60% of Gaza, which they, of course, will never give back.
With that, I just wanted to, mention this website. This is a new project, or it's a project by Palestine Chronicle, which was started by Ramzi Baroud. If you have not read his latest book, go get it immediately. You can go on Thrift Books or bookshop.org that supports local bookstores. You can also, of course, go to a local bookstore. But this is
what? Leave the house? No, never.
So whereas Palestine Chronicle is like on the ground reporting from Palestine, this Thinking Palestine is where basically scholarship and journalism intersect. And there's a more of a examination, debate, and context to the stories about and from Palestine. So check that out. Ramzi asked me to throw that out there.
So the site is thinkingpalestine.com.
And his latest book is called Before the Flood, and it's about his family history, not just in Gaza, but before Gaza, including even before the Nakba, and giving that important context to what's going on, recognizing that the horror show that is Zionism is not only not new, but it's not the first time that Palestinians have had to fight for their survival.
And another site that you guys should remember to check out
and buy things from.
All the money goes to Gaza. It has been created. The site has been created by one Eleanor Goldfield, and it's called artfromgaza.com. This is all art made by artists in Gaza, and all the money from the sales goes to those artists in Gaza. So I certainly hope you will check those out. Like for each of the prints, there is a recommended price, but a lot of people throw in extra to get that money to people in Gaza. That's artfromgaza.com. Also want to mention myself while we're doing it. I have live shows coming up in Los Angeles and New York. Los Angeles is next week, so I always have to plan to pause during the woo.
I'm sorry to fan it up for you.
I love when you fan it up. So if you're thinking of coming to the LA show, I would very much think you should get tickets soon, because it is, I think, Wednesday of next week. But anyway, that's leecamp.com/schedule for either the LA or New York shows. leecamp.com/schedule. Would love to see you there. John F. O'Donnell from Redacted tonight will be on both shows with me. Naomi Caravani will be on the New York show with me as well. And yeah, it's going to be a great nights of comedy. Really, really hope you make it. The other thing is I have a new column up at Substack. That's reallycamp.substack.com. That's also where you can support me and support this show. reallycamp.substack.com. If you could throw in the cost of one beer per month, it will make it so my work can continue.
Not even a good beer.
Doesn't even have to be a good beer, yeah.
No.
reallycamp.substack.com.
Not the kind of beer that I like.
Check out the new column. I'll tell you the title. We'll see. Maybe I'll have a minute to talk more about it at the end of the show. But for now, I'll just give you the title. The title is "The U.S. has a 2,000-year-old lost city that no one talks about."
Except for Lee Camp.
It's awesome. It's such a fucking cool article. I don't mean my writing's cool. I mean just the thing is cool. The 2,000-year-old city in the U.S. that almost no one talks about. It's free to read. Go over there.
And I don't know if you realize this with your math skills, but that's before the U.S. was a thing.
That's before the U.S. was a thing.
And so there were like people here before.
What?
I know.
Shut up. Shut your face. Wait, so this city was founded by George Washington, correct?
You're a relative.
You didn't need to do that.
Hey, you brought it up.
But yes, it's just an awesome story. And yeah, I think you'd really like it. That's reallycamp.substack.com. Free to read over there. And all of Eleanor's work is at artkillingapathy.com.
And that's your ad break.
That's your ad break. Let's keep going. Let's get to ice. It's getting a little warm in here. Let's get to ice.
You're the only person to ever make that.
No one's ever made an ice joke before. Nope. I'm the first.
Nope. So this story was initially broken.
I believe it's Breaked
by The Guardian, which, you know, is one of those outlets where sometimes you're like, good God, what propaganda. And other times you're like, wow, this is really important reporting that you're doing. This is one of those latter moments. So basically, ICE has hired a firm accused of torture. Wait, it gets worse. To deal with undocumented children.
Nice.
And I feel like this falls into that category of like, that feels so on brand for the US, but like, it's like Israel. You're like, you keep somehow one-upping yourself on how remarkably disgusting and terroristic you can be. Like, I didn't actually know that that was possible, but here we are.
I mean, I guess if you're a psychopath and you're doing what they're doing, then there's no like too much. There's no level where they go, oh, that doesn't sound right. Because they're fucking psychopaths. There is no end.
So as the US government is wont to do, it uses contractors, like third-party contractors, for a lot of the darkest shit that it does. This is one such company, and basically it won a contract, and this company has faced accusations of torture and, quote, enforced disappearance. And they are assisting ICE in tracking down undocumented immigrant children who arrived in the US alone. A note about that real quick, because I think it's important to highlight that when kids arrive in the US alone, a lot of times that is done right before they get to the border. It's a horrific practice, and I've spoken to people who have seen it, and there's a realization that children traveling alone, because this is a policy that has been under Democrats and Republicans. Biden did the same thing. That a child traveling alone has a better chance of getting through the border than a child traveling with parents or guardian. So a guardian or a parent will leave their child in the hopes that their child will get across. I can't even say this without having a breakdown. So I'm going to get, you can imagine. So when we talk about children who arrived in the US alone, we have like this feeling of like, first of all, who would let their child travel alone? And you make these kind of like judgments about the person. You might have this really warped understanding. And this is because of the propaganda around even just that phrase. And it's important to understand that that's fucking bullshit. And that when a parent or a guardian is faced with the reality that me and my child could either die together here, or I could try to get my child across this stupid fucking border and pray that they make it, you're going to choose the latter. And that it's not your fault. Yeah. It is the fault of this fucked up system. So I want to highlight that, because this is another thing that I feel like the Guardian should have noted, that because we shouldn't.
That's not what the Guardian
I know. But here I am fucking, you know, calling them on their bullshit. Anyway. So this company basically has, as ICE puts it, is their boots on the ground. Now here again, like the US is not even at war. It is like war.
Blackwater? What does firm mean? Like hired a firm.
So the agency firm, basically, they trace immigrant children who reached the US without authorization and were released into communities, like you're releasing, I don't know, doves or something. While they go through immigration court proceedings as safety and wellness checks. ICE says it wants to confirm the children's location, school enrollment, and overall wellness. I'm sure you do.
Oh yeah, totally. Very concerned for them.
And this is the part that makes me laugh in like the most morbid way possible. They want to check for signs of trafficking. Says the people who are trafficking children.
Yeah. And again, as if they care.
And of course, as The Guardian points out, ICE actually runs the operations with the aim of deporting the children or pursuing criminal cases against them, and uses this as basically a backdoor family separation. So, this company is called MVM Inc. Now, again, like, you have these like completely banal sounding, they're not called like Fascist Terrorist Inc. or anything.
Yeah, they're always like Tiger Swan.
Yeah. Blackwater. So MVM is a longtime security contractor based in Ashburn, Virginia. I don't know if anybody's joining us from Ashburn, Virginia, but just know that those are your neighbors. Do with that information as you will. It has previously provided security services to the CIA, that lovely collection of crackerjacks. In 2024, it was sued by 2 Guatemalan fathers and their respective children in a California federal court for alleged torture, enforced disappearance, and cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment, according to the lawsuit, for the role that it played in family separation at the border under the first Trump administration. MVM physically took thousands of children away from their parents and transferred them to shelters. They transported and harbored these children using unmarked vehicles, commercial airlines, and makeshift detention centers. They fucking trafficked children, okay? And ICE's argument is that they're trying to ensure that this doesn't happen. Every time they say something that they want to make sure that is happening or not happening, it is the exact opposite. So these are the people that are dealing, like literally using AI and surveillance and all of this shit to kidnap and traffic children. Relatedly, this coming week, I have an interview with Logan M. Davis, who broke a story for a local outlet, the Colorado Times Recorder, about hold rooms. Now, hold rooms are unofficial. Sorry, I'm going to go off a little tangent here. Hold rooms.
That's okay. This will get us to our solutions segment.
Hold rooms are unofficial ICE detention facilities. Now, considering the status
really
and structure
kidnap room
of official ones, you might wonder, wow, how egregious must the unofficial ones be? Hold rooms are actually not allowed to contain beds. Now, you're not supposed to hold anyone in a hold room for more than 12 hours. Can you guess whether they stick to that?
ICE always follows all the rules, don't they?
One woman was held in a hold room in New Jersey for more than 200 days.
Jesus
No
Christ.
bed. No access to a bathroom unless you are escorted to one. These hold rooms can be the size of like a small, like a cell, basically, and they can be packed with people. There is no oversight. I mean, even less oversight than there is of the official fucking concentration camps, right? These mini concentration camps, what Logan called bus stops with cell doors, these have zero oversight, and they're oftentimes located in like abandoned strip malls. Right. So next time you drive by like a strip mall somewhere and you're like, wow, there's no, there's some cars parked there, but it doesn't say anything about, yeah, it's that one. It doesn't say anything about what business is there. It could be an ICE hold room. Now, you don't have to guess at it though, because Logan has done the hard work for you. He's actually mapped, and you can click on the map. He's actually mapped where these hold rooms are, and they're in every single state except for West Virginia. And there are several of them in, for instance, in Arizona, there are several. There are 9 in Colorado, where he reported on this from. And again, these are part of a larger web of torture. And as he pointed out,
are essentially ICE black sites.
Yes, they are. And as he pointed out, the pain and suffering is the point, because ICE is supposed to, as soon as they scan somebody and they take them into detention, are supposed to put that information on a searchable website so that their family members can find them. With these ICE hold rooms, they're unofficial and they don't put that information up there. So they disappear someone.
It's disappearing them, yeah.
And then they'll move them around. One guy, there's another piece that Logan wrote that shows the journeys to, from, and through these hold rooms. One man, 40-year-old Venezuelan man, was moved 10 times. 10 times.
To different states.
To different states.
Yeah.
And you can look at this and it's tempting to think, oh my God, these people are such idiots, but they're not. the torture, the pain of not knowing what happened to your father, your brother, your sister, your mom is the point. The point is the psychological torture. And so the idea that they're doing this because they're idiots and they don't know where they're sending people is actually not fucking true. And it's dangerous to underestimate how horrific these people really are.
And some of these people ultimately, it comes out that they are a citizen or whatever, they have the paperwork, and so they have to be released, and ICE will release them. But if they were kept for a week, 2 weeks, a month or something, the process was the punishment simply for being an immigrant, even if they had the correct paperwork. So that is part of the strategy by ICE, is to make, okay, well, we might not be able to kick you out of this country, but we are going to make your life miserable. And during that week, your family's going to go insane looking for you. You'll lose your job. Like, we'll destroy your life, but even if we have to release you.
Yeah. So do check out this work, because it's horrifying, but it's also important to recognize. And when I talked to Logan, he said that one of the things that he's been heartened by is seeing how many people have actually used this information to act on it in their home places. Because again, this is in every single state, except for West Virginia.
Speaking of that, I have promised on these live streams to bring you guys more solutions, either things you can do or things that people are doing that are helping with this broken world. And one of them is how people are responding and fighting against these hold rooms.
Yeah. So Logan said that because these hold rooms are in places like, abandoned strip malls where it's like a storefront that used to house like a Pinkberry or some shit.
Oh my God. Could you imagine being kidnapped in a Pinkberry, but there's no ice cream there? Oh, that'd be the worst.
Well, not for you. You're lactose intolerant. It'd probably be worse if that was your only thing that you had access
but I
to.
remember my days like 15 years ago when I could eat ice cream.
He has delayed onset lactose intolerance.
Delayed onset.
So
sounds far worse than it is. Oh, that poor guy. Why is he wandering over there, bumping into that wall? He's delayed onset lactose intolerance.
So basically the zoning, right? And I know that this can sound really boring and you're like, oh, zoning laws, but here's the thing.
But Eleanor's going to sum it up in 30 seconds.
Here's the thing. You basically use the tools that you have and you flip it as Logan said, you judo flip it so that you use their financial interests against them, because they're not abiding by basic, humanity, but also laws. You're not allowed to hold people that's not zoned for that, right? So holding somebody in these places for days and hundreds of hours.
Turns out Pinkberry did not have a right to kidnap.
Right. They're not zoned for fascism, okay? No, they're not zoned to house people. And this can actually be a tool. So you take this to the landlord, you take this to a city council or a mayor or what have you, and you basically say, like, you got to kick these people out because they're going against the zoning regulations. And Logan said that they're working on 2 places of the 9 in Colorado right now with this zoning regulation and using that as leverage, because we have so little leverage. So we use what we have. And sometimes a tactic that we can use is the law. That I'm not the kind of person that says that frequently, but sometimes you can leverage what the law in a way that is useful. So that's one way of doing it. Of course, just knowing where these places are and showing up to them and being in community can be helpful too. But of course, that's not zero risk, understanding that ICE has, killed bystanders just for being there.
Absolutely. So that is one strategy, and we'll as I bring more and more solutions.
Yes, somebody's asking, is this strategy documented somewhere? If you mean,
yes, I wrote it down over there. I'll go get it.
If you mean someone talking about it, or if it's documented having worked, it's in the process of working. But I interviewed Logan. And that will air on Monday, this coming Monday, the 11th at projectcensor.org. It will also air on whatever podcast platforms that you listen to, but you can check out projectcensor.org on Monday.
Here's something at Urban Institute. I mean, I just Googled it, so I'm not saying there aren't better sources than this, but This is over.
Well, these are the official ones.
What happens when ICE detention facilities conflict with land use rules designed to promote the public's interest? Yeah, basically, I would just Google it and see if you can find various.
Well, and this is these Project Saltbox, which is actually based in Baltimore, has covered the issue with warehouses that ICE is trying to turn into these massive concentration camps. They have documented the issues with ICE trying to, basically all of a sudden you're going to need bigger sewer lines, and what kind of permitting does that look like, and what kind of zoning. And so you can look into that kind of data as well.
What about when the United States is one big cesspool? Do you still need sewer lines?
We are a sewer line.
That's kind of my point.
Okay. I don't know that there's a permitting for that kind of the girth of that.
So did you want to do this one more ICE story, or
no? We can move on to some new old news that
let's skip to our probably be our final story, but
oh, never mind.
Yeah.
So you might notice that this article is from April of 2025. But the title is CDC's cruise ship inspectors laid off amid a bad year for outbreaks. Basically, RFK
Does that relate
Jr.
to anything else you've heard about recently?
RFK Jr. fired all of the cruise ship inspectors last April. I can't think of anything at the moment that we might be suffering from because of that, just solid choice.
Yes, so most of you probably know, but what she's talking about is there's been a massive outbreak of hantavirus in a cruise ship. Teams from the CDC prevention will meet the passengers in the Canary Islands before they're sent to Nebraska for quarantine.
I'm sure the Canary Islands are stoked about that.
Yeah, they love it.
Quarantining in Nebraska too.
But anyway, you're hearing about this awful hantavirus. I don't know a lot about it, but it can definitely kill you. And the only thing I know about it is they ultimately found out it's what killed Gene Hackman's wife. And then his body was found, in a different room, and he was he had so much dementia that he perhaps did not even know how to feed himself and stuff. So he may have died from that. But yeah, it's a real horror story. But she died of hantavirus, and the day before, maybe that morning, she was in a CVS looking for medication. She didn't know she was just going to collapse. And now this cruise ship is just filled with hantavirus.
Well, yeah, and apparently, so it's spread from rat droppings, basically. And so it's pretty unusual to find it. And it is unusual. It doesn't spread from human to human as easily as COVID or something. So while the CDC says this wouldn't produce a pandemic, the likes of COVID, because it's not as easy to contract. It's still not good. It's not something that you want to have anywhere near you. So, yeah, maybe having some cruise ship inspectors would be a thing. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, seems like it might be kind of useful. And yet we're just rife with hantavirus. You know what's exciting, though, in the United States? Is we're bringing back diseases that people thought were long gone.
That's true.
Which is kind of interesting.
That's true.
Anybody looking into what the bubonic plague was like? It's a lot of fun things.
I watched a House episode that had the bubonic plague.
There you go.
Although that show got so lame when they brought in love interest. Why does every American show have to do that?
I know.
Just leave it alone.
Just let
him be a bitter doctor.
Hugh Laurie? Just let him hate people.
Just let him hate people. He doesn't need to fall in love with anybody.
He doesn't need to love it. You know what? Love's not for him. He's just for hating humans.
I find it funny that American TV shows feel the need to do that, considering that most people in the U.S. are alone and are taught to be individualistic.
I've realized that Eleanor is very into, and although clearly, judging by the success, many people are into, people that solve crimes or riddles or medical issues and are sociopaths. Hugh Laurie is a sociopath. He doesn't understand why you would care about a fellow human being, and
but he helps them anyway.
In Sherlock, the TV show, it's he's a kind of a sociopath. He's
but he helps.
He actually at one point he actually calls himself a high functioning
sociopath.
High functioning sociopath. And you see this again and again. It's just like criminal investigators who don't care or understand humanity and they know how to solve riddles.
But they're helpful. Okay. It's like the Dexter thing. It's like kill the
Dexter.
baddies, help the goodies.
Dexter, there's a few others I'm not thinking of right now.
I feel, you know what? I feel solidarity with them because I also don't understand human emotion. I'm not as smart as to be able to like tell you've got some rare disease from like Eastern Europe or some shit. But I appreciate that they're still helping people even though they don't understand them.
Eleanor's like Data from Star Trek, just like trying to figure out human laughter.
I've actually never seen Star Trek.
Bring back old diseases, and we're gonna wrap up there for now. But I'll give a couple more sentences about this. I hope you guys will go check it out. My new Substack column, free to read, over at reallycamp.substack.com. The U.S. is a 2,000-year-old lost city that no one talks about. It basically was frozen in time after a massive mud or landslide in 1700, but the village itself from the Makah tribe dates back to at least 2,000 years ago, and they think dates back to 4,000 years ago. And they only found it in the 1970s, even though it was covered in this mudslide in 1700. And anyway, it's an amazing story, and you should go either read mine or click one of the links in the story and check out their online museum and everything. But it really is fucking cool. And I make some points about the fact that we have this amazing like ancient history. That's not the only amazing ancient history, but in the United States. And it's not something that the US like brags about or makes a big deal about. Whereas other countries, like millions of tourists go to other countries to see their ancient history, to see these things from like so long ago. And instead we just like don't even mention ours. We're like, Abraham Lincoln was there like 150 years ago. You could go see where he laid down once.
He was actually an asshole. Didn't free the slaves.
I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just saying.
You're kind of missing the point.
Just saying.
Right now, like not understanding human emotion, you kind of miss the point.
Am I not understanding that you're irritated by this?
So not irritated. I am loving this right now. Okay, that's at reallycamp.substack.com. I also hope you will sign up over there either for free or
some good shit over there
or support the show. I will see you. Let's see. No, Monday I have to travel. So next week's going to be a little dicey with live streams, but I will definitely be back the week after that if I am unable to do any next week. But keep checking my Substack because I have new columns, etc. And Eleanor's work is at artkillingapathy.com
and eleanorgoldfield.substack.com.
and eleanorgoldfield.substack.com.
And don't forget artfromgaza.com.
Artfromgaza.com. Thank you guys so much. Keep fighting.